Well, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are in, so to speak. We're getting reports from Crow. You can look at shipping dates slipping. We don't have the actual numbers, just to be clear. But the Apple Watch Series 4 is selling pretty well already. Just with the pre-orders, apparently it's already being pre-ordered higher than they already expected it to sell, which I imagine they were expecting it to sell pretty good because this is the first time since the first generation Apple Watch that we're actually getting a noticeable design change. Larger display, rounded corners of the actual Apple Watch as well. We got a louder speaker on the side, we got the microphone on the other side. There's plenty of things to be excited for, and today we're talking about how the Series 4 is going to be crushing the competition and how the Series 4 is going to keep Apple in the position of #1 watch and #1 wearable for years to come. So as Apple mentioned during their keynote, yes, even with the last year's Apple Watch Series 3 not being a really major update at all. You know, we got the red dot, we got cellular, we got a little bit better speaker. Other than that, though, it looked pretty much the same. We got that ceramic edition that was in space gray. Unlike this year we got nothing ceramic or anything. It was still the #1 watch in the world. By far, #1 wearable. Most people spending their money on Apple Watches. While you may look at things like the Galaxy Watch and think they are cool, well, it is impressive that they're able to stuff such a small battery into such a small device that gives you so many days of battery life. I think more people care about the operating system experience and how it tethers with their iPhone. Because with the Series 4, we did not really see a battery life improvement. They said it's the same battery life as before. Sadly, we did not get any battery life improvements. We didn't get anything too crazy like micro LED. But I don't think that takes away from the fact that a lot of people who are Series 0 owners, who are Series 1, Series 2, Series 3 owners, all are looking at the Series 4 at this design change and saying, hey, if I upgrade this year, if I order one now, it's probably going to be the most modern, future-proof design of Apple Watches for years to come. Honestly, what are they even going to add with the Series 5? They could do like better battery life, I guess, but I almost think they could have left out the ECG monitor, which is really, really impressive on the Series 4, that if you rest your arms on a table and you just rest your finger on the digital crown, it can actually give you that really, really detailed, intricate view of your heart rate. Maybe they should have left that for next year just so they have some type of update to go off of. Because honestly, I feel like the Series 4 is going to be such a home run that next year it's going to be difficult to come up with new reasons to get people to buy it. Maybe just by lowering the prices and making more affordable versions of it. But for the most part, I think it's safe to say the Series 4 is going to slaughter the competition, just like the very, very small update that the Series 3 was slaughtered the competition and remained the Apple Watch as #1. The Series 4, I definitely think, is a much more perfected look of the Apple Watch. It's funny to me that a device can look very modern and look very new, as I looked at my Series 3 and looked at it as the most latest, fastest Apple Watch you can get. But as soon as we see that Series 4 and we see those curved corners and we see how they made that device kind of blend into itself a bit easier with the curved edges and the thinner bezels than the Series 3, immediately now I look at my watch and think, wow, this looks dated with your square corners and your bigger bezels. I know a lot of people may think that bezels aren't that important on a wearable device, but the thing you got to remember, you're working on a very, very small device when you're looking at your wrist. So being able to take up as much space as possible on a form factor this small actually is very important and very helpful to people who can't see on screens this small and they have to make the text larger so that they can read it. Having that larger display so you can display more content is very, very useful. And with the health features they've added with this year's Series 4, it seems like a lot of people are saying you could potentially have your life saved by this Apple Watch. A lot of people have heart problems and they need their heart monitored, and luckily the Apple Watch, after doing their heart rate monitor study, was able to detect when several people were going into cardiac arrest or getting near the point of a heart attack, that they were able to contact the emergency services and be warned and be aware that they were in trouble, and luckily able to get medical attention much sooner than if they did not have an Apple Watch and they had to wait until the heart attack was really, really hitting them hard. The ECG definitely is going to help with that, and already there have been many situations, and even the Apple Watch Series 3 or Series 2 or 1 have been able to save people from death. One particular story was a guy who got into a car crash, fell off the side of the road and went into a ditch, and he was pinned against the ground and he wasn't able to reach his phone to call 911, to call emergency services. But luckily, his Apple Watch was right there on his wrist, so all he had to do was hold that side button and he could immediately call emergency services. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to do that. So to the people out there who think the Apple Watch is kind of pointless or think I don't need a wearable out there, they're kind of dumb, there there are definitely real life and death situations in which having an Apple Watch can be very, very useful. The other ways I think the Series 4 is going to conquer the competition this year is that S4 chip they've included. Now, the speed of the Series 3 I already thought was pretty good, but it's going to get even better with the Apple Watch Series 4. And another small detail that a lot of people didn't notice is that in 2018, having Bluetooth 5.0 on a smaller device is rather tricky. We can get it in phones, but wearables, that can be a little more complicated because last year with the Apple Watch Series 3, we had Bluetooth 4.2. Even though it was launching alongside iPhones that had Bluetooth 5.0, they weren't able to shrink it into a device as small as a watch. But this year they figured it out, so now you can have even faster data transfer between your watch and phone, which means looking at pictures using the camera remote viewfinder, which I think is really, really cool. You're able to set up your iPhone on a tripod or something and then get in the picture. And then using the Apple Watch screen, you can look at it, see who's in the picture, line everything up, and then you tap the watch, and then there's a timer for 3 seconds. Yes, Galaxy Note 9 buyers, you don't have to spend $1,000 on a phone to be able to have a remote view and be able to take pictures from far away. And you don't have to be holding an S Pen like a magic wand if you want to do it. You can actually view the picture or the video before it's taken with an Apple Watch, and you can get Apple Watches for under $300 that will still pair with iPhones that are $400. So combined, you get an overall better experience. It's less than $1,000, and you can get an easier way of taking pictures from the phone from far away. So Series 4, I imagine, is only going to get even better with that now that the display is a higher resolution and you have Bluetooth 5.0 now, so communication between phone and watch should be much easier and more streamlined. There's a couple of things a lot of people assumed that would be the death of the Apple Watch. Remember when that first came out? A lot of people were like, well, it doesn't have XYZ. Some of those variables may be an always-on display, which I'm sure a lot of you out there would still actually like that. I'm not a fan of the always-on display, but it seems that even though the Apple Watches don't have that, they're still able to stay the #1 watch and still stay high in customer satisfaction because they realize that people can rely on raise to wake pretty easily. Most of the time, when you need to look at your watch, you make that gesture. There's very few times where you're not making that gesture and you need to know the time and you can't spare a wrist spin. The other thing is a multi-day battery life. People really want longer battery lives with their Apple Watches so that they could do more sleep tracking and see how their motion goes in their sleep. But I've talked about this briefly in the past on my channel. I'm not exactly sure what sleep tracking is for. Basically, I can wake up and tell you if I had a bad sleep or a good sleep. I don't really need a data to tell me how exactly I slept. Like, I get it with calories and I get it with exercise minutes and stand. Like, I understand that part of it, but when it comes to sleep, what am I gonna do with that data? Oh, I gotta sleep better tomorrow night. I'll try my best. So maybe Apple looked at that sleep tracking app and the idea of being able to monitor that part of your health as kind of extra, not necessary, maybe not as big a priority for a lot of people. So once again, it was a situation in a lot of people thought they knew what they wanted and Apple had to correct them and say, no, we know what you want and you're gonna pay for it. And it ended up being right. I'm very confused as to why this year they decided the Series 4 did not deserve an edition. I guess if you want to spend $1,200 or $1,400 on an Apple Watch, they still have the Hermé line, which I also just think is weird and stupid. Just slightly fancier watch bands that costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars more. But now the maxed out Series 4 happens to be stainless steel. So you can't get that ceramic version anymore, but they did add that blush gold option for the people who want that blingy look, I guess you could go for. Is that a word? Blingy? Either way, for people who want fancier Apple Watches, overall, the price point, I think on average, is now lower because stainless steel is the high end and aluminum is the low end. So while both versions of this watch got more expensive, there's no longer that ultra expensive one to go to if you just need to burn money. So regardless, I think this proves my point that the Apple Watch Series 4 is going to be a super cycle, meaning a lot of people upgrading this year, and I'm just going to predict that next year with the Series 5, there's likely not going to be much worth upgrading for. Slightly better battery, maybe they'll do the always-on display. The other thing a lot of people complain about with the Apple Watch is the no third-party watch faces, but I gotta admit, some of the watch faces that are coming with the Series 4 look amazing, and I'm wondering if they're exclusive to the Series 4 or if you'll be able to get them on the 3. If you have any information on that, I'd love to know. Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.